Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Momita, moderator for the conference call. Welcome to Q1 FY22 earnings conference call of Inox Wind Limited, hosted by Axis Capital. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star and then zero on your touchtone telephone. Please note that this conference is recorded. I would now like to hand over the floor to Mr. Vaibhav Sabu from Axis Capital. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Axis Capital, I am pleased to welcome you all for the Inox Wind Q1FY22 earnings conference call. We have with us today Sri Devansh Jain, the Executive Director, Sri Jitendra Mohanani, the Group Financial Controller, and Sri Narayan Ludha, Chief Financial Officer. We will begin with the opening remarks from the management on the operational and the financial highlights, as well as the key updates from the sector. This would be followed by a Q&A session. With this, I hand over the floor to the management. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaibhav. Good evening, everyone. I welcome all the participants of this earning call. The Board of Directors of Inox Wind Limited has approved the unaudited financial results for the quarter ended 30th June 2021 in the meeting which was held today. I trust you would have had an opportunity to go through the results. Now I will request Mr. Devansh Jain to provide you an outlook on the sector as well as the operational highlights.
Hi, thanks, Ian. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Good to connect with everybody. We'll keep it short and simple. I'll speak a little bit about operations and more about how we see the months and quarters coming by. To begin with, for Q1, the company recorded gross revenues of approximately 169 crores compared with 97 crores in the corresponding quarter of the last financial year, which is a growth of about 74%. The company has turned EBITDA positive. We've had a positive EBITDA of about 2.7 crores on this fairly small gross revenue as compared to a negative EBITDA of 26 crores corresponding to the same quarter in the last financial year. This quarter, while we were on track to ramp up further, I think unfortunately production and execution was impacted due to the severe second wave of COVID-19, which frankly led to non-availability of oxygen for industrial applications. Our entire tower production across all our plants was shut down. Consequently, we could not supply complete sets, which is a prerequisite now to collect, to keep supplying and execute cables. Production is now in full swing and execution is in full swing across our plants and across all sites. We are well on track to launch our 3 megawatt turbine. Majority of our components are now in India. I think over the next 15 to 20 days, we expect to start assembly and get this product up and running in the coming months of this wind season. Execution is going on well on the Continuum project. Our SPV Nani Virani, which is a tie-up with PFC, as well as various retail orders across the southern states as well as Gujarat. Consolidated order book is very healthy, stands at about 1300 megawatts. Talking about how we see the sector moving forward as well as some strategic initiatives. I'll just briefly touch upon, I'm sure all of you are aware, IWL now has a new holding company called IWEL. The consolidation of the wind business under the new holding company called Inox Wind Energy Limited is being done keeping in mind we expect to unlock the value of the entire wind business, enable the pooling of various assets and expertise for realization, synergistic realization, efficiencies as well as expansion. And we got all the people together to ensure better management focus and specialization for sustained growth. Moving on, as I mentioned, the key actions for us in the months and quarters to come of this financial year are namely one, we are fully focused on launching the 3.3 megawatt turbine. In fact, not just launching the turbine and then also being ready to start commercial production immediately thereafter. I would just like to reiterate that while we are launching this turbine for the first time in India, globally, given the fact that the technology licenses from AMSC, these turbines have been operating for many years, so we expect this to be a fairly smooth sail in terms of launching the turbine and quickly ramping up commercial production. We are seeing a major thrust in the retail, captive and C&I segment, as well as a lot of announcement by the PSUs such as NTPC. I'm sure all of you are aware that there is a massive thrust coming in on renewable energy as well as green hydrogen. In fact, the IPCC report was probably one of the strongest statements for not just India but also the globe, which kind of directed that we need to move towards net zero emission targets as rapidly as yesterday, if not in the coming 2 years. We also achieved a milestone in India where we've achieved 100, which there have been various announcements by the government over this week. And there are massive goals set out, and we believe that we are now on the threshold of a massive ramp up for the wind sector. Just to touch base on 2 more points, given the way the market is developing, we expect to have increased proportion of equipment supplies, particularly for the 3.3 megawatt turbine, which consequently will reduce EPC work and a lot of the risk associated with that part of the business. And the last point I would like to mention before I hand over to Mr. Monani is we are working on various balance sheet actions, and we expect to announce or implement many of them in the coming quarters and months of this financial year, pertaining to retiring high cost debts, reducing financial costs significantly, and also leveraging the equity of our wind business to kind of be prepared to ramp up our operations as the sector is now looking at exponential growth in the quarters to come. With that, I hand over to Mr. Monani.
Thank you very much, sir. Just to cover the financial highlights, as it was told to you, the company is contemplating raising funds by way of NCDs, the proceeds of which will be utilized for retiring the high cost debt and optimize the working capital. We are taking certain other initiatives also, which will lead to significant reduction in the financial cost. On the front of financials, revenue and EBITDA compared to the corresponding quarter revenue of 169 crores in Q1 FY22 as against revenue of 97 crores in Q1 FY21, EBITDA of 2.7 crores in Q1 FY22 as against EBITDA loss of 26 crores in Q1 FY21. So this is the broad overview of our operational and financial performance and how we see the sector going forward. I have along with me Executive Director Mr. Devansh Jain and CFO Narayan Lodha to take questions now. Thank you. The question answer session maybe start now.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. If you have a question, please press star and 1 on your telephone keypad and wait for your turn to ask the question. If you would like to withdraw your request, you may do so by pressing star and 1 again. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please press star and 1 on your telephone keypad. So our first question comes from Mr. Chetan Parekh from Earthstone Greentech. Please go ahead, sir.
Hello, myself Chetan Parekh. I am working on Earth resonance issue in India. So my first question is, this government is planning such a huge capacity by 2022 and 2030. Do we feel that our capacity is enough to participate with such a huge drive? And secondly, this American superconductor AMSC turbines, how it is better than other competitors in India? Can you clarify this? Thank you.
Look, of course, the government has announced a massive target, and we've been, I'm sure you are well aware that there has been a lot of transition pain over the past 4 years, and finally, policy-related and tariff-related matters are behind us. We are well entrenched in terms of having manufacturing capacity of almost 1600 megawatts. So, frankly, I don't foresee hitting that capacity at our end in the near future. But yes, if the actual ramp up on the ground in terms of volumes does play out, we are well established to ramp up capacities to 1600 and even beyond that. Coming to your second question of how this turbine is, I think we've been at the forefront of launching larger turbines during the FIT regime, be it a double-fed induction generator or an integrated gearbox and larger rotor diameters. Naturally, over the past 3 or 4 years, we had a lot of inventory which we had to utilize, clean up, and so on and so forth. And we believe now this is the right time to get the new product up and running, given all our majority of, or almost virtually all our old inventory and assets are now supplied and cleaned up. No, it's what's relevant to note is over this period, we at one point in time almost had 30 manufacturers. Of course, out of that, 5 or 6 controlled about 85% of the market. But I'm sure you're aware, a lot of those erstwhile players have gone bankrupt or shut down over these 4 years. We are probably down to 2 MNCs and maybe 2 Indian companies. And there's a massive market. I think there has been a shortage of supplies. There has also been, various sectoral issues which had to be resolved for a lot of us to get back and move forward. And I think, fortunately, all that is now behind us. I think we're on the verge of ramping up. Possibly, if it was not for COVID, we would have seen a significant ramp up over the past few months. But I think we're now all on a massive ramp up mode. With respect to the top 2 or 3 players, as I mentioned, we're all virtually on par in terms of technology. At some point in time, we may be 3 or 4% better than them. At some point in time, they may be 2 or 3% better than us. But on a more broad-based platform, the top 2 or 3 players of the sector are virtually always plus minus of each other in terms of technology.
And in future, are we planning to demerge or list Inox Infrastructure Services Limited on stock exchange?
We keep evaluating options. I think over the past few years, we have demonstrated various actions, be it demerging all the wind assets together into a new holdco, and now, having a more focused approach. So at the right time, I'm sure our board will consider doing the right things and unlocking further value.
Thank you very much, sir. Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir. Our next question comes from Mr. Mahesh Doot. He's an individual investor. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. My question is regarding the holdco. So, and in terms of timeline, I just wanted to understand when the process of reverse merger start, i.e. when this proposal will be presented to the board to receive its approval to start the whole process.
I'm sorry, this is not in the public domain at this point in time, and I think the board will evaluate various opportunities at the right point in time, and whenever there is something to report back, we will keep on in that.
And the
Okay,
information or details about the holdco are already in our presentation, so you can have a look at that.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Our next question from Mr. Mandar Arun Sherbet. He's also an individual investor. Please go ahead, sir.
I have 3 small questions. First is, in the notes we see that we are buying wind turbine generators from somewhere. So whom are we buying these generators? The second question is, with Inox Wind Energy Limited, does this company have any other assets apart from the being a holding company for Inox Wind? And the third question is, out of the 26 megawatts that seems to have been supplied this quarter, how much was for the Nani Birani project?
Hi Mandar, thank you for your questions. GM, so I think coming to your first question of buying turbines, these are older assets lying in the system which are being resold, since we have had old assets which had to be allocated to customers, and I think that's what's coming up in terms of buying and reselling, because they were in another SPV which is being bought. In the consolidated picture, it's basically reselling older assets to liquidate old inventories and get receivables back. Number 2, with respect to IWEL, yes, there are various other assets. There are certain ICDs and advances given by the holdco to the wind businesses, which have now been merged into Inox Wind, as well as certain small operating assets, very insignificant small operating assets, which are part of the holdco. Your third question,
Okay.
26 megawatts.
Basically, in Nani Virani, we have not supplied any turbine. All the turbines are given to either container or retail.
In this quarter.
In this quarter, the turbine has gone to the retail customers.
Okay. For Continuum, it seems only 2 megawatt was supplied this quarter, isn't it?
No, don't worry, you have the breakup. We'll get the breakup and send it. But it's a mix of Continuum and retail customers. There's been no supplies to Nani Virani.
Yeah, but definitely not 2 megawatts. It's more than that.
Okay. About Nani Virani, can I have one question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Of Nani Virani project, until it reaches the 250 megawatt capacity, do we have revenues coming from for the SPV? Do we have revenues coming from the electricity generated?
No, so Nani Virani is not a 250 megawatt asset, it's a 50 megawatt asset. And on tranches of 10 megawatt, as we are allowed to commission in tranches of 10 megawatt, thanks to certain changes in rules during the COVID period. So as we keep commissioning 10 megawatts, the revenues of the commissioned assets will keep accruing in the books of Nani Virani.
Okay. So do we have any other such SPVs apart from Nani Virani? Because in SECI 1 and SECI 2, Inox Wind itself had bid for 250 megawatt projects, right?
Well, I think we've gone through that many times earlier over the past few years. We've developed all those projects. We've had back-to-back agreements with people to kind of buy it, and that's not consolidated on our books.
Okay.
We've already developed them and downsold them under various agreements to various investors.
Achha. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question comes from Mr. Ritesh Gandhi from Discovery Capital. Please go ahead, sir.
Just have a couple of questions. In terms of, just want to understand, in terms of the overall market share, we would expect.
We can't hear you.
Mr. Gandhi, we're not able to hear your voice clearly, sir. If you could come to a place where the network is there.
So you can hear me now? Is this clearer? Is this clearer?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Not much, sir. If you could.
Okay, maybe I'll just. Sorry.
तुम्ही ज्या व्यक्तीशी बोलत आहात.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please press star and 1 on your telephone keypad. So our next question is from Mr. Gokul Das from Bavaria Group. Please go ahead, sir.
Hi, Devansh. This was in respect to the previous participant's question again. The holding company, other than the Inox Wind share, also has, I think, 600 crore plus of assets, right? So eventually, whenever the merger happens, would that be used as equity to grow the wind platform more? Is that also part of your balance sheet action? Is that the broad thinking?
Well, logically, yes, that would be part of the balance sheet action. But yes, I think that's something which the board has to evaluate. And when we have an official communication, that's a point in time where we can talk about it publicly. But logically, what you mentioned.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, and take how much of the wind assets, farm assets are under construction? How much is it fully constructed? Do you have still any assets which are fully constructed that needs to be downsold?
No, we don't have. I mean, well, we have about. We have Nani Virani. Besides Nani Virani, we don't have any constructed asset which needs to be downsold.
Okay.
And we are constructing Nani Virani. Once we construct and commission it, then at the opportune time, we will downsell that as well.
Right. And from a more 3-year kind of perspective, what would be the customer composition between IPPs and independents and maybe government PSUs or whatever?
Well, broadly speaking, I would tend to think that PSUs would be 15 to 25% of the market. Retail, captive, and C&I customers would be again 15 to 25% of the market, and IPPs would be about 50 to 60% of the market.
Okay, got it. Typically from the EPC versus the equipment sale split, how do you see that for 3 years from now?
We believe going forward with our 3.3 megawatt platform, about 65% of all businesses, if not more, will be equipment supply.
Okay, that's it from me. Thanks, Devansh.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question from Mr. Ritesh Gandhi from Discovery Capital. Please go ahead, sir.
Hi, is this better now? I've just logged in.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're not.
It's still not.
You can hear me?
Still not audible. Still not audible.
Okay, I'll just ask it offline. No problem. Sorry about that.
Hello?
I'll ask it offline. Apologies. I asked the question offline. Sorry about that.
Ritesh, in case you are not able to get the connection, then you can send us the email also. There's no issue.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please press star and 1 on your telephone keypad. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please press star and 1 on your telephone keypad. So our next question from Mr. Taras Nagda from Enam Holdings. Please go ahead, sir.
Hi, Devansh. I had a question on Inox Wind Infra Services.
Yeah. Hi, Taras. How are you?
I'm fine. How about you, sir? Yeah. So Devansh, I had this question on Inox Wind Infra Services. I guess we are raising money at that level. Is that right?
Well, at this point in time, what we've done is we've raised some money at the IWEL level, and we've raised some money by allocating equity at the IWISL level.
Okay. So you basically converted 600 crores worth of your loan to equity. Is that right?
No. So that was between IWL and IWISL itself. IWL had given advances to IWISL, which has only been converted into preferential shares to avoid tax leakage in the system.
So they are converted to preferential shares,
yes.
Not... okay, because I'm seeing the note which mentioned it was converted to equity shares.
It is a preferential allotment. It was allotted as a preferential allotment. And
I cannot hear you, sir. Sorry.
Okay, it's a equity share. It's not preference, it's equity.
It's a preferential allotment which has been done for equity shares only.
It is equity. Okay.
So it was advances which Inox Wind Limited had given to IWISL, which has been converted into equity. Frankly, there's no. I mean, that's between the two wind companies.
Yeah. Got it. I got it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Devan. Thanks. That answered my question.
Thank you, sir. The next question from Mr. Vikas Agarwal. He is an individual investor. Please go ahead, sir.
Hello.
Please go ahead, sir.
Carry on. Yeah.
Hello, sir. I am Vikas Agarwal. I just have one question that I want to know. I want to know regarding your target in FY23, targeted execution in megawatt.
Well, for the targeted execution in FY23 or targeted execution in megawatt?
23, next financial year.
Well, unfortunately, we can't give forward-looking statements, but I would tend to think if the market is going to be 3 to 4 gigawatts, our aim would be to get back to our original position of at least 15 to 20% market share.
Okay, sure. That's why thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question from Mr. Rajakumar Vaidyanathan. He's also an individual investor. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. I have a couple of questions. The first question is, I want to know what is the overall the consolidated debt, and what is the average cost of funds?
Net debt is about 950 crores at this point in time, and average cost of borrowings for strategic reasons we will not be able to disclose.
Okay. Because, I'm seeing a finance cost of almost 62 crores for the quarter. It's almost 240 crores.
Well, we are which various customers have given on which we are paying interest. And we also have various ICDs given from various. I think as we move forward, as the holdco structure eases and as we are converting some of this into equity, a lot of those interest costs will go out. So we've mentioned that we are working on various balance sheet actions which we expect to implement over the coming months of this financial year.
Okay, and in one of your slides, you have mentioned that based on the current order book, you'll be able to do a revenue of 2,400 crores in the next 24 months. So given that kind of a top line visibility, I would like to know, when you would become EBT positive, whether it will happen in this financial.
We've not given any projections of 2,400 crores. What we've put out is the order book, which we expect to execute in a period of 24 to 30 months, which translates to about 1,300 megawatts, with thumb rule is worth about 7,000 crores. Number one. Number two, coming to EBITDA positive, we are already EBITDA positive. This quarter, we've turned EBITDA positive with about 3 crores of EBITDA, positive EBITDA. And naturally, as we ramp up operations, as the top line increases, this will translate into heftier EBITDA and eventually PAT.
Hello. Yeah. No, I asked EBT positive, not EBITDA. So I know you've turned EBITDA positive this quarter.
I don't think we're in a position to answer that question at this point in time.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question from Mr. Mandar Arun Sharbat. He's an individual investor. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, one more question about the 3.3 gigawatt wind turbine generator. When can we expect the revenues to start flowing in related to that model?
So Mandar, we would expect that to happen in Q4 of this financial year.
Okay. So nothing in Q3. So you'll be starting commercial production hopefully by September or October, right?
Broadly, I think first we need to get the proto up. Once that's up, we will be ramping up production. So, maybe you may see some amount of revenues in Q3, but, significantly, I think we are planning Q4. We have a lot of 2 megawatts which we still need to do. And due to some of these COVID delays in Q1, we've not been able to do that. So I think we're going to see a lot more 2 megawatt being supplied over Q2 and Q3 of this financial year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. The next question from Mr. Ketan Gandhi from Gandhi Securities. Please go ahead, sir.
Hi there. One question. Supply of our 3.3 megawatt to the group company, I think we were supposed to start by, say, June this year. I believe it is delayed by 1 year. Is my understanding correct?
Well, it's not been delayed, but the internal group company decided to shift from the 2 megawatt turbine to the 3 megawatt turbine, which we accepted. So yes, once we ramp up 3 megawatt, we will start supplies of that product to the group company in this financial year.
You mean to say this financial year only we'll be able to start commissioning?
We'll start supplying from this financial year. I mean, the last financial year, we didn't have the 3 megawatt turbine. So we are now launching the 3 megawatt turbine, and once we do that, we will start supplies to the group as well.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you, Devash.
Thanks, Ketan. Bye.
Thank you, sir. The next question from Mr. Gokul Das from Bavaria Group. Please go ahead, sir.
Hi, Devansh. Thanks for letting me in again. On the holding company, 250 crores is the direct ICD, right? So what are the other assets? Just some color on.
Certain advances by that entity, and there are some minuscule operating assets. All of that will get, all of them are lying in the holdco.
And that would be what, 650 crores? Is that
That's about 600 crores. So we've got about 300 crores of ICD. We've got about 250.
आपण ज्या व्यक्तीसोबत बोलत आहात त्या व्यक्तीने आपला कॉल.
I'm not sure. I'm also hearing something over.
Hello.
Please go ahead, sir.
I'm able to.
Gokul, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you.
Yeah, so we've got about broadly 300 crores of ICDs, about 250 crores of advances, and about 50 odd crores of assets in that entity.
Okay,
broadly.
that's very useful. That's very useful. And when do you see think overall this industry consolidation, the benefits of this industry consolidation in terms of margins to start showing up?
Well, as I mentioned as we are now ramping up operations, unfortunately Q1 was completely impacted with oxygen not being available. But we are ramping up operations, and I think we are well on track to do that. So I think we expect fairly significant revenues over the course of the next 9 months of this financial year. And with that, as you've seen in this quarter, we are EBITDA positive, which is this minor top line. I think we expect to have significant EBITDA profits as we move forward. Having said that, with a lot of the other balance sheet and strategic actions which we are contemplating over the course of this year, we expect to get to PAT positives, a PAT positive situation by end of this year, if not earlier.
Yeah, and the last question would be a little bit update on the land bank that Inox Wind holds. I guess it might be very useful in the project's ramp up. So just
I think we carry a project site inventory which includes evacuations and land banks of about 5 gigawatts. So I think we are well positioned there. But I think as majority of the business now is under auctions, SECI auctions, and most of it is where people will now be bidding themselves and building their own transmission lines and land. To that extent, this will lie as a big buffer in the system, which will primarily be used, I would say, for PSU orders and retail orders on a pan-India basis. Given majority of the SECI orders won by IPPs will be equipment supply deals.
Got it. Thank you. That's helpful. All the best.
Thank you, Gokul.
Thank you, sir. The next question from Mr. Rajakumar Vaidyanathan. He's an individual investor. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, sir, thanks for the follow-up. Sir, you mentioned the current borrowings is about 900 crores. So I was just looking at your March 21 balance sheet. It shows almost 1,450 crores of borrowings between current and non-current. So just want to know what is the movement between March quarter and the June quarter.
So what you're looking at is the gross number. So effectively, we have 950 odd crores of net borrowings, which is about 1,100 in terms of gross borrowings. And then the ICDs from IWEL are also reflected in that, which I mentioned in my previous answer was about 300 odd crores from the group company, which is IWEL, which is the holdco of IWL.
Okay. So including that, what is that number still holds good, or we need to add 300 to the number that you mentioned?
That's the holdco number, which eventually with certain balance sheet actions will kind of get cancelled in due course of time. So frankly, we're staring at a 950 crore external borrowing. That's what should be relevant for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the next question from Mr. Neeraj Diwan from Sadak Services. Please go ahead, sir.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. My question is on slide number 14, which has the list of wind auctions. My query is specifically how much of this capacity is yet to select an equipment supplier? If I exclude RTC2, Hybrid 4, and SECI 11, which are the last 3 rows, that's about 7.5 megawatts, 7,500.
17 gigs.
Yeah.
We believe about 6 gigawatts is commissioned. That leaves about 11, of which we believe about 3 to 4 gigawatts is not going to see light of day. That leaves about 6 gigawatts, and we believe about 3 to 4 gigawatts is yet to choose equipment suppliers.
And this would be in the auctions which happen at the later part, or these are auctions which happen, say, in the mid part or the earlier section?
Well, mid and later part.
Mid and later. Okay. So roughly about 3 to 4 gigawatt is yet to appoint equipment supplier, which would be a target for Inox Wind.
Well, that's one, and two, with so many tenders now continuously coming out, such as Hybrid 4, SECI 11, and so on and so forth. You're going to see a lot more auctions and actions on the ground. Don't forget, until 19, there was barely anything happening. There were a lot of land issues. Grids were not ready. Once 20 came in, COVID came in and impacted virtually everything for the whole year. So effectively, you're really seeing momentum and movement happening at this point in time. Let's also not forget, I mentioned we don't expect to see 4 to 5 gigawatts to see light of dates from this list, because many of them have been bid out at atrociously low tariffs. And given most of the equipment has now been cleaned up across all manufacturers, naturally nobody is left with inventory to dump or just sell at massive discounts. Everyone's moving towards manufacturing new goods only if it makes profits, and that's kind of reflected in the tariffs also, which you're seeing in the ensuing auctions.
Sure. Thank you very much. So that's about 3 to 4 gigawatt, which is yet to.
Yes, pertaining to up to SECI 9 and SECI 10.
And most of these projects would probably have not financial closure, right?
I'm not privy to that, but I don't think that should be rocket science, given that majority of them have been won by some of the larger players such as Adani, JSW, and SECI, for whom the tariffs at which they won the latter parts of the tenders, it should be fairly easy to get financial closure if they've not already got that done.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question for this call. I would now like to hand over the floor to Mr. Vaibhav Sabu for closing comments. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, hi. Thank you everyone for the enriching Q&A session. I would just ask Devansh Jain and the team to take forward this if they have any closing remarks. Thank you.
Thanks, Vaibhav. In conclusion, I would like the sector is now on way to see a significant jump in supplies and execution. There is tremendous interest from old as well as new IPPs, PSUs and CNI investors. The policy and tariff regime has stabilized, and with increasing focus on renewables and green hydrogen, we expect to see a continuous and sustained increase in business as we move forward. Post the COVID second wave, which impacted which kind of impacted operations, we are ramping up operations and execution on the ground, and we expect to see increased momentum quarter on quarter. We have a diverse set of customers across IPPs, PSUs, as well as retail and CNI customers, and we expect to have a healthy mix amongst these four even as we keep ramping up our business. A key focus for us is now going to be launch of our 3.3 megawatt platform, which we are working on. As I mentioned, majority of our components are already in India. We are waiting for the last one or two components, post which over the next couple of weeks we should be on with launching our platform. Our immediate focus thereafter will be to ramp up commercial production of that platform. We believe this will be a game-changing development for the Indian markets, more so given the cost structure at which we operate. Let me remind you that until the sector was back to normal operations and our old inventories were all tied up, it was not prudent for us to launch our new turbine, which otherwise would have led to more standard assets in the system. And I'm happy to say that majority of that has already been cleared, and we are now well on track to get this going. Lastly, to conclude, we are working, and there were many questions around that, we are working on various actions to further strengthen our balance sheet, and you would be hearing from us soon on some of these actions so that we can fully leverage the upcoming growth in the sector. Thank you for your time and look forward to connecting with you all in the next quarter.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Axis Capital, this concludes your conference for today. Thank you for your participation and for using Doorsabha's conference call service. You may all disconnect your lines now. Thank you and have a good evening, everyone.